Okay, so I don't think we even have that much longer. So I want to really quickly go over this Moralis stuff because there's some cool stuff here. So as you guys remember, we were doing a hackathon with Moralis. It's been going on for a couple of months, $500,000 in prizes. We had the awards ceremony the other day, which I have the YouTube link here. I'll share with you. It was basically a demo of all of these, and then they voted and chose the three. You can see the three winners here, but I very briefly just wanted to kind of go over them. And then of course, I just wanted to show the three that won. So one of them was Meta Gymland. And so I'm actually a big fan of this idea of the metaverse. I understand that it opens up a potential can of worms, because I don't think there's a full appreciation of how high fidelity the metaverse is going to get. I don't foresee the metaverse always being something like Gather Town. I believe it's going to get way more high fidelity than that, because I believe there's going to be really, really high fidelity human computer interfaces that we don't have today, that we just have the very precursors of today. And so I think that the metaverse is going to end up being extremely high fidelity. I call it the Matrix, but that's why I say it opens up an ethical can of worms, because the Matrix isn't something that most people want, right? So I'm not talking about the worst parts of the Matrix, but I'm talking about something being that high fidelity where it literally feels like you're living in another reality. That to me is what the metaverse, where it's headed if you let it mature X number and number of generations. So I'm very interested.
Funny story real quick. I'll just say, so I've been traveling this week. I was in the airport yesterday. I was sitting at my gate and there was a guy sitting in my terminal playing on his Oculus Quest 2.
Yeah, he was there, right?
Which I have never seen anyone take VR out in public and just be in the middle of an airport sitting next to people. Like, I mean, like he was even using like the hand controller. So I'm like, dude, like I would be so nervous about hitting the person next to me.
I agree.
Like,
yeah, but it just goes to show, you know, like it's right here. And so anyway, big fan of the idea of the metaverse. So this is a pretty good idea. I think I shared this. I'm not going to show the video right here, but basically it uses your webcam and then some AI to pick out your different limbs. And then there's like a game, and it'll have you doing different exercises to kind of compete different tasks in the game. I think it's a very good idea. And again, one of the things I like to do is just kind of take an idea and extrapolate where it could go in the future. And I could see this actually being very powerful. It didn't win. And again, I'm going to share the links so everybody can come back and check these all out later. I'm going to skip the 1, 2, and 3, and then we'll come back to them. So this is Below the Mountain. This is like a typical, it feels like it might evolve into something like Minecraft, right? So it's basically like you're mining something, you're crafting things. So, you know, you go to here, you basically pick a piece of land. You can see I've got 2 here. You can go different pages. I think I got one on this page as well. And then you go and you have like different items, and then you mine them, you know, if anybody's played any of these type of games. But it's all on chain, of course, and each one of them is an NFT and a token. And so to me, like I have a 13-year-old son, and he's just a super gamer. He loves it. And so I just am involved in a lot of gaming culture. A lot of gaming culture crosses my screen throughout the day. And it has been my perception, and Connor, please correct me if you think I'm wrong about this, but if I were to judge the public sentiment based on the media that I see, of course, I could be in a bubble, but the media that I see, it seems like the traditional gaming industry is leery of NFTs because people are associating them with microtransactions and pay to play and all these terms that a lot of these traditional guys appear to be hating on. And I am just having now seen so many different technologies disrupt existing industries. What we're witnessing is people whose jobs are being disrupted by a technology that they don't fully understand. So what they're doing is they're lashing out at it. That's how I perceive it. Myself loving the blockchain and really appreciating the potential, I can't see a world where people don't want to own their in-app items. I just think that's such a one-way door. Like, how do you fight that? How do you fight when one game's in-app items have some value to them and yours do not? I don't see it. The other complaint.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think NFTs are a tool. You know, tools are neutral. Tools are not inherently good. They're not inherently bad. It's all about how you use them. So can you design scams and exploitive schemes with NFTs? Absolutely. People do it all the time. Mm-hmm. Can you define paradigm shifting, revolutionary customer empowering technologies with NFTs? Yes, you can. Mm-hmm. And we're starting to see that. And I think what we need to, as a space, try to educate people is we're not the scams. We're not the exploitation. There's tons of exploitation and scams in your world currently. And, we just because that, this tool doesn't solve every problem and create a, total utopia, doesn't mean that it's not valuable. It doesn't mean that it's not going to, can be, it's not net positive.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people who are working to make sure it is net positive. And we want to make sure that we're empowering those people and trying to give their work the most eyes and the most love that we can.
Right. Yeah, well put. And then another thing I hear about in the video game, some people seem to think that it's a dumb idea that people would want to transfer assets between games. So for example, here I've got this stone pickaxe that I created, right? I crafted it from some stone and some wood on the other page. Why would I want to take that stone and transfer it over to Sonic the Hedgehog, right? That's a dumb idea. It might be a dumb idea in that use case, but it might not be a dumb idea that I would transfer it over and use it in Zelda Breath of the Wild, right? So I think they're going to be contextual, and not all items will make sense in all games. And so what I think the opportunity here is for some real game native, crypto native people to define the inter-game standards and what makes sense in what places. And it's a big space, and I'm not sure what the right solution is. But again, as sure as my intuition feels like, of course, people are going to want to own their in-app items. Of course, people are going to want to transfer their skins and different items between games. How do they do that? One of the things my son always complains about is when in one of his games he's playing Fortnite or some online MMORPG, they'll introduce a new weapon or something, and it'll be OP, they call it, overpowered, meaning they don't have it quite dialed into the game, right? So they introduce a new shotgun and you can kill everybody with one shot. It's quite a little bit OP, right? They need to dial it in. It should take 2-3 shots to kill somebody. So I think that's going to be the challenge and the opportunity. How do I bring this pickaxe from here over into Minecraft and have it not be OP or under P? How does it make sense in what games? How can somebody define those standards in those rails? We already have standards and conventions like ERC 721, ERC 1155, ERC 20. What is the next level? It's a challenge and an opportunity, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think it's going to consume all of gaming. I think many games are not going to have NFTs, but I think a lot of, what we've learned over the last couple of years is that digital assets are valuable. And I think that there's a way to create markets for these that are actually like empowering. And I think play to earn, I'm not necessarily super bullish on long term, but I think play and earn
right.
is something that is actually quite real and might actually be sustainable, where you're going to the game to have fun and to be entertained, and there's no like ultimate objective of like trying to earn money. Instead, like if you want to, there's some aspects of this game that if you put a lot of hours in, might save people some time, who might have more money than time, and they might be interested in buying.
Absolutely.
And, yeah,
it already exists.
That's
How
I think
many people
real
buy World of Warcraft accounts or whatever? I mean, that's already such a huge gray market. I'm not sure if it's even a white market, but it already exists.
Exactly. It's like if we actually just change that gray market, like that's literally the perfect example of, man, I would really love to play this new expansion pack that came out, but I don't want to have to put 60 hours into the base game. And the developer didn't provide a way to do that. So I could either grind for 60 hours or I could pay $50.
Right. Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people would pay $50.
Yeah, I agree. All right, next we got Dropper. So this one didn't win as well. It was a finalist. As you can see, it's an NFT marketplace. You can see I actually issued my own NFT earlier. This is me 10 or 11 years ago. That's my son. This is Tim Berners-Lee. I met him years ago. He gave me half an hour of his time. Such a champion. But I issued, this is an NFT marketplace. So it was done well, but I think there's NFT marketplaces, so there's not much I can dig in there too. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Connor.
No, yeah, it looks well designed. Yeah,
it was done well. It was one of the finalists. We had over 250 submissions, I believe, in the end. Some of them, there was a subset of those that were just trash or noise, but then there were some still over 100, I believe, that were quality. And then myself and Connor and a few other people did the
just the level of competition is quite high when you have that many, and so and the time scale is still relatively short, especially if you're not working on this full time.
So I do want to give shout out to all the teams. This wasn't incredibly high. I consider this a success for a couple of reasons. I remember, you guys may remember, I had said, to me, a real success, I can't judge it yet, but as if in 6 months, one of the biggest startups in our space had started here, I will judge that as success. And when we get to the finalists here within the next 2 minutes, I think one of those three has the potential to be around in 6 months and be a big startup. So I think that could be success. But even independent of that, I'm positive that just from a community and DApp and engineering perspective, the ROI on this particular project has been so incredibly high that we're going to be doing a lot of hackathons going forward, pretty much full time. We've got a couple that are already in the works. We're going to be hitting colleges. I'm not going to yet say the universities, but they're big ones that everybody on here knows. We'll be coming to your neighborhood. We're even going to be hiring out teams around this stuff. So full-time blockchain hackathons going forward. This one was so incredibly successful to us. So here we have, it's called Cratch.io, decentralized meta streaming platform, earn while watching or streaming. So I think you guys get what's going on here. Experience the metaverse or in cryptocurrencies. I want to get to the last ones. This is Batcher, send multiple tokens or NFTs in one transaction. So I think you can kind of get, it's on Heroku, so I think they have to spin up a dyno. I don't want to sit there and watch that. Agnostico, so this is a smart contract repo marketplace. So a non-opinionated protocol for sharing and deploying smart contracts. So there's been a couple of different times in my career, I was thinking about this today, trying to think of examples where I've seen stuff like this. The one I thought of doesn't map perfectly, but at a high level it does. In the Bitcoin Cash community, when I was in Australia, there is a company called Emergent Coding, and it's similar. They have but their code is emergent. It's not supposed to be written top down by a human, it emerges. But the point being, they have little components that live in this marketplace. And in theory, you can put together the components and describe your app, and then you pay per usage from this marketplace. So I get the sense that this is something like that, right? There's just a bunch of different smart contracts in this marketplace. You can compose them modularly, and then, you pay. And I think one of the big things, it also plays to the favor of gaming, is doing things like, what's it called? Whenever you share the profit with somebody.
Revenue sharing or royalties?
Royalties, there you go, royalties. Yeah. Royalties on smart contracts is something that is coming into focus right now, and I believe that's part here. So that's what this is. Let me know if you have any thoughts, of course, Connor.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a cool idea. I think a lot of people believe in open source smart contracts, but open source does not necessarily mean freely licensed. And I think there are some protocols who are interested in licensing their code a little bit more restrictively and maybe asking people to pay. And I think that's a reasonable choice for some of the effort that comes in. Not a lot of people have done that, but I think people have to be able to make money off their work, and they should be able to. And so if this is a way to help people and help developers make money, yeah, I think it's a good option. Certainly not the only option in crypto, right. But I think we do sometimes have a problem of when something is a public good, how do you monetize it? And sometimes a lot of times the answer is just a token, but we already have too many tokens.
Sure. All right, now the top three. So this was a winner of, I believe, $25,000. This is the third place. So this is basically how do we describe it? An open DeFi education platform. And I have the presentations right here. I was considering watching them, but it doesn't seem proper. So I'll share the links again to the deep links if you guys want to go and actually check out the presentation. But this was it, the open DeFi platform. And their presentation is really good. So I'll share it with you guys and you can go check it out. The second place is Web3 push notifications where you are in control. Snowflakes.network.
Oh, I think I actually did review this one.
Did you? Nice.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a pretty cool little project. It allows you to register notifications for dApps. And so it's kind of like an email subscription service or whatever, so that if dApp providers integrate with this service, that they can notify you whenever you have, whenever they add a new token pair to their incentivized list or something like that, or they make a protocol change, or there's a new governance proposal. It's a way to do that.
Nice. And then lastly, first place was here, decentralized Q&A platform like Quora. And what's really cool about this is they said they have over 100,000 questions. So I'm not entirely sure if this was around before the hackathon. It's built on Avalanche. So again, I don't know the fine details about what's going on there, but just what's really cool is that all of the questions and answers, you can see right here, where's it at? They're all on IPFS as a big JSON, right? And then there is a Avalanche transaction where the input data here at the bottom is, if you convert it to a string, it's basically a link to that IPFS JSON blob. And so everything is on chain, it's IPFS and it's an Avalanche transaction. So in theory, you could get rid of this front end, this is what I presume, and this will always be around. I like this, you know, again, I was a big part of the Bitcoin Cash community, and I remember there was a time when there was, to me, what felt like a misunderstanding, and I'm guilty of it myself, but I just came to later, my intuition was like, that's just not the right architecture. But there was a vibe of writing everything to the blockchain. So in Bitcoin land, there's this op-return opcode, and it allows you to write 80 bytes of data in BTC, 220 bytes of data in BCH, and it's different in all the Bitcoin flavors, and I think it's in Litecoin. Any Bitcoin derivative, you can write a little bit of data to the blockchain. And so there was these protocols that allowed you to, over the course of 5 or 10 transactions, write 220 bytes to each transaction and then point to the others. So people were writing like dictionaries to the blockchain and whatever. And it just felt a little wrong to me. To me, the right architecture feels like this. Put everything as on IPFS in a big JSON blob or however you want to do it, and then just put the hash on the blockchain. That feels right to me. What do you think?
I just feel like you took some shots at me, because that was one of my first projects that I've talked about here, was using op-return to do some proof of existence.
It's true though.
But I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let it go this time if you promise not to say that ever again.
There must be like 10 gigs on the Bitcoin Cash blockchain still to this day that I'm guilty of writing to. So I'm there with you. So anyway, this won first place, and I think this is actually really cool. To me, the hackathon was extremely successful. As I said, we had a bunch of connections, great connections with VCs. It was great working with Moralis. And as I said, our intention is to have a full-time hackathon, something going forward. We've already started the plans. We had a meeting this week. I have a meeting again tomorrow. So a big college is coming up next. We're going to have one in Barcelona.